Hi, it's Lucy here and welcome back to my channel. I love that you're here. And as always, I'll get straight into it and I'm going to be using these papers today. I want to be inspired by the squares, but I also have another geometric shape in mind for my last card. And these have some sweet images on them, but with the two cards I create today, neither shows them. But here's two cute cards I've already made. You don't need measurements for this card if you're using these papers as they're ready to cut out. But if you're using different papers, the size of the large square was 8.5 centimeters or almost 3.5 inches. And the small squares are around 6.5 centimeters or 2.5 inches. And these are really easy design ideas for using squares and they're so simple to make. So let's get started on the first card and I'm going to be cutting out the squares. I've already cut a few of the squares at their full size of 6.5 centimeters and now I'm cutting a few at 5.5 centimeters as this is going to be a very layered card. I've already decided which square will go in which corner, so I'm cutting them out, making sure none of the squares will show any parts of the images once they have a layer on the top of them. These bottom four are going to be added like this and then a white layer on top which has been die cut and it's about 12 centimeters. I'm going to rough up the edges with a distressing tool and if you don't have one of these you can use your scissor blades to make the same type of look. By the way, my card size is 13.5 centimeters or 5.3 inches square. Adding some type of border, whether it be cardstock or doodling or roughing up the edges like this, just gives the layers some added interest and also some contrast between them too. I'm going to add some double-sided tape to my card front and then I can start adding the squares on there. And once I've added the first squares, I would like to actually add a little bit more double-sided tape so that the bottom of the squares are also attached properly, so I'll just add one more piece of the double-sided tape where it needs to go. And once I've lined up the tops of the squares, I'll take the backing off the rest of the tapes to stick the whole squares down. I've die cut a square from white card and it has lovely stitching around it. Having square and rectangle stitch dies in your stash is almost a must for quick and easy card making. There's no measuring then, and if you watch my videos you know I don't like to measure unless necessary like this card. I've then gone ahead and roughed up the edges on the smaller squares, and don't you just love these check designs? I'll add them all with double-sided tape and I don't mind if the squares overlap a little. If this bothers you, you can always just cut them down a little more. No one will notice if they're not an exact square. These papers and the card bases I'm using today are all from Uniquely Creative and they're having their Black Friday sale this weekend from Friday the 22nd of November through to midnight Monday the 25th of November. That's Australian Eastern Standard Time. So these times can vary depending on where you live. And they have 20% off and free shipping within Australia. And I'll have a link to the products and their store in the description box below this video if you want to go and check it out. They only have 2 sales a year. The other sale is on Mother's Day. And onto the last part of the card, and I'll rough up the sentiment square and mount it onto a square die cut and pop in the center of the card. I'll finish off with some white Nuvo drops, and once I've added Nuvo drops I like to use the bottle top to whack my card onto, and this gives me lovely even dots and it flattens them out a bit. You can bang it harder and more times to flatten them more as well. And then this card's finished. And for the next card, I'm going to use these checks to create a birthday card. I've cut the arch out and I have a hexagon die here which I'll use and try to make as many check hexagons as possible. If you don't have die cutting facilities, maybe you have a hexagon punch you can use. I have a few different sizes of hexagon punches and I love them as well. I'll keep any of the bits that aren't full patterns to the side as I may need them for the edge pieces if I don't have enough full hexagons. The best way to get small pieces out of your dies is to use a pokey tool like this or a special brush. I didn't have much luck with the brush I bought a long time ago, so I don't use it. But I also used to use a pin before I got this tool, and this is by far my favorite, and also from Uniquely Creative, just to let you know. And I'm going to use this rectangle die that's smaller than my card front, and I'll make sure my piece of white card is big enough to fit the die before starting to add my hexagons to it. And I'm going to use my 10 centimeter wide double-sided tape, which makes backgrounds like this really quick and easy too. It is big enough, even a little too big, so I'll just trim off some more so I don't add hexagons unnecessarily. And once I've taken the backing off the tape, I can go ahead and start adding the hexagons. And because I have 3 different check patterns, this is going to create a very neat pattern. And in order for no hexagons of the same pattern to be touching, you need to add, say, a dark blue one next to the brown and light blue one each time. And if you use more than 3 designs, you can add them much more carefree. And the more patterns you have, the easier that is not to have any of the same next to each other. So if you do have more patterns, yeah, it is definitely recommended. And see how using 3 patterns has created another pattern as a whole? I love hexagons, do you? They're my favorite geometric shape to create with. I've made a few videos already using hexagons in the past. I've die cut a piece of beige paper to fit my whole card front, and now I'm going to mount the hexagon piece onto white card. I'll add it to the card to finish the background, and now to find my favorite sentiment die, and I'll die cut it first with the beige and a white shadow. But when I test it on the card, I don't feel like the beige stands out enough, so I'll die cut the sentiment again in a blue shade, and I think this stands out much better. I won't waste the beige one though. I'll layer it underneath to give more height to the sentiment, which always looks much nicer than one layer. I'll leave the glue to dry and we'll take a look at the other 3 first. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Has it given you any ideas? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to share my videos with your crafting friends if you think they may be interested. Thank you so much for all your lovely comments as well. I love reading them and hearing if you have a favorite card. And here's the one that I just made. I think it would look really good as a soccer, football sort of card as well. You could do it in the black and white or their team colors or something like that. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I have lots more ideas coming, and I do have my 20,000 subscriber giveaways coming up shortly. And of course, I already have lots of videos that are already available for you to watch straight away, and there'll be one coming up now. You can just click on the thumbnail. I'll have all the links to everything I've used below, and so if you're interested in any of them. But that's it from me for today. Happy crafting and bye for now.